Well, hi! Welcome to our fourth video in our series on demystifying generative AI. Today we're going to get very down and dirty. We're going to start talking about how we can use generative AI to more effectively do our work. My focus is on marketing, and that's what this video is about. How do we make marketing for small and medium-sized businesses more affordable, quicker to do, and far more effective? That's what we're going to cover in this particular video. So let's dive in. Okay, let's continue our journey into demystifying generative AI. We've done 3 videos now, really breaking things down, starting at the very high level, talking about AI, neural networks, machine learning, etc. We've walked through some of the sort of practical things, the technological things. We've also looked at some tools in the last one. I wanted to pull everything together in this one and show you some of the ways that we use generative AI in the marketing world. So I'm titling this Revolutionizing Marketing with Generative AI. So really the focus of this talk and the focus of a lot of work that I do is for smaller and medium-sized marketing companies. So what does their world of marketing look like? Well, there are challenges. In many cases, there's a lack of dedicated in-house marketing resources and expertise. The money's tight as well. I mean, budgets for marketing is reasonably limited for these smaller to medium-sized guys. The founders' employees are usually juggling lots of balls. There's usually a lot of pressure on those folks doing multiple things. So time is challenging to put into marketing. It's also tough for these organizations to hire these strategic marketing thinkers, talent that's out there. These guys are expensive, they're hard to find. And in some of the sectors that I'm focused on, which is particularly spatial and geospatial, really hard to find guys that are really good at marketing and understand the geospatial and spatial world. And the last one I'll list here, we could easily add more, but there's constraints on actually producing the output that is marketing. So that's the content, that's looking at the analytics, that's all that social media activity. That takes a lot of time and there really aren't the resources available to do this kind of thing. So lots of challenges for small and medium-sized companies when it comes to marketing. As a consequence, we get that kind of behavior sometimes when there's conversations around marketing in these organizations. So I will say that we are in a really interesting time where technology has moved to a point where we've really got a level playing field. So yes, the big guys can spend a lot of money on marketing. They can bring in big departments of folks. They can bring in external agencies to spend a lot of money on that. But thanks to generative AI and what I'm going to show you here, really the playing field has become much more level. And for those smaller and medium-sized organizations, they can do things now they couldn't have done before. So, generative AI for marketing, a step-by-step guide. And by the way, I'm going to show you some of these things in this. That image, guess how that was created? I think you can guess. Before I jump in, I just wanted to provide a couple of slides just talking about what I'm going to be talking about. So if you watched my last video, I kind of walked through some of the main tools that are available, some of the ones that I most like in terms of what's in the generative AI world. I'm going to be talking in this one about specifically these 4 AI platforms. So yes, OpenAI, AI and ChatGPT, yes, Anthropic and Claude, Midjourney for imagery, and then Runway, which is more in the video world. So these 4 are the ones that I'll actually be talking directly and indirectly about in this talk. And I wanted to point out the fact that if you're familiar with ChatGPT at all, ChatGPT 4, I think it's available. I don't know whether you can get it from 3.5, but certainly in 4, there is this notion of these GPTs. So you can actually build your own ChatGPT. Essentially, you've got the body that is ChatGPT, but you can train your own GPT off of your data, and you'll see things here that we've done. In particular, we've created some scripts and created them inside and published them into this world, which makes a lot of the things that I'm going to show you automated and easier and quicker. So you are going to see some things that we've actually built to make things a lot simpler in this world. And again, it's very simple scripting is what I'm going to say. So, step one, let's walk through these. Let's walk through these steps of how we can use generative AI as a small and medium-sized company to actually dramatically improve our marketing. Where we generally start as an organization is the web page. Since we often come in to organizations where they've already got things standing up, our job is really to figure things out for them, to put things in place that are missing, and we often start at the web page. So our perspective on websites is really guided by Simon Sinek. And Simon Sinek talks about these three things: the why, the how, and the what. And you always start with why, which is the name of his book. Now, in a web page, those things need to stand out really clearly: your purpose, how you achieve that, and what it is you do to get those things rolling. So they need to be fundamental pieces of your website. There are other pieces to that, but these are the fundamental pieces. So we more often than not, and again, we do a lot of this with things that we've already built, but we generally ask ChatGPT or Claude initially to actually look at the website. So we ask that actual question: give us an assessment of the website. Does it have these fundamental things there? Give us your perspective on what that website looks like, and we'll get that feedback, and we'll ask additional questions. So we spend time looking at the website, and there's a good reason why, which you'll see in the next slide, why we spend time on the website. We don't generally build websites. We'll build websites to folks if they need it, and that's, again, an easy process. A lot of people don't realize it's a much simpler process to build something on WordPress, for example, that really looks very professional. So there's the assessment piece of the website. The question then that comes back, working with these LLMs, with generative AI, is it a good story that you're telling? What are the recommendations that those engines are coming back about the website? And most importantly, is that story the one you want to tell? A lot of times people are changing websites and making all sorts of adjustments to them. Is that the story that you want to tell? So there's a human aspect to this, and you'll see me talk a lot about this in this talk, where you do the assessment, you look at the feedback, and then you look at the story that's being told, that is being reported back to you by generative AI. Is that the story you want to tell, and are there missing pieces? So there's work that more often than not needs to be done on the website. Step two, the marketing strategy. Now this is really magic. As far as I'm concerned, this is complete magic. So marketing strategies are complicated things often. If you do a Google search and you're looking at what is a marketing strategy, you'll be all over the place as to what it is. It can be complicated, it can be very simple. It's just a complicated thing to get to, and a lot of times small and medium-sized companies don't have the time, they don't have the bandwidth, they don't have the expertise to actually build a proper marketing strategy. So it's kind of a piecemeal thing, very much sort of lead generation focused, very much content focused, but the overarching strategy, the guiding piece of that is more often than not missing. So how can one automate that process? Well, we've actually built a template with instructions inside of it that instructs ChatGPT to build a template, and we've gone through lots of iterations on this to actually make this an automatic process. You've got on the screen there an actual sort of page that is starting the journey, but let me switch over to video, and I'm going to give you a very quick walkthrough about what that looks like. So we basically shared a website and said, please build out our template using the information you've gathered from the website, so there's a search that's done, a Bing search. It uses our template, reads through that, and then it generates this, which is essentially a custom marketing strategy. And you'll see how quick this is. I think this actually takes less than a minute to walk through. It's really super quick, and it covers all of the main pieces of the pie of a marketing strategy. So you'll see how quick that is, really super quick. But that's the building blocks of everything we're going to talk about in this presentation. So this piece is critical. This piece is super critical. So what happens next? So you've generated thanks to generative AI and the template that we've kind of built here, this breakdown of a sort of summary, a structure, a framework, which is what you'll be working off of. But that doesn't take humans out of the loop. Don't imagine that generative AI is a thing that's going to do all the work for you. You've got to do work. So I picked out a couple of things here that are taken from that particular report that I was just showing. ChatGPT comes back with a value proposition. We ask them to come back with what they see by reading the website, what the value proposition is here. And you can see for Terran 4D, which was the company whose website we pointed at, there's the value proposition that ChatGPT thinks is what is coming out, again, coming from the web. It's also generated buyer personas, and there's 3 buyer personas there. Environmental manager Emma. It's at this stage where one walks through, and we do this with customers. Once we've built this template, once we've used a template and we've built out that initial structure, we then go through that and walk through it and make sure that everything's in an alignment with what the company thinks. Are those the right personas? Is that the value proposition? Is there more? And more often than not, we will actually feed that data back into ChatGPT. So we'll improve within our sort of world of our GPT, sort of those answers that are coming back. And so you can get a lot more detail put into that strategy document before you go into the execution phase. So again, quickly built the template, quickly built a sort of a structured document, which is a marketing strategy, gone through it as humans and looked through it and made sure every piece is right. And we've checked everything. Oh, it says step 6, I should say step 4. So I'm not going to walk too much through this, but that's basically the contents of the strategy document that's generated. So we have each of these pieces, and you can pause this video and look through these, but these are each of the main sections that are automatically populated by generative AI, and these are the things that we will walk through with you as a customer, and make sure that we've got the details there that's needed and we've corrected anything that's missing. So at the end of this process, we should have a complete strategy document, which is our guide to what we're going to be doing next. So this is, I'm forgetting the order of things, that's probably step 5. We're getting out of all of the steps. I should have checked I should have checked this presentation before I presented it. But I wanted to move into the content piece of this. So content's the critical place where everyone's focused. There's lots of methods that can be used to generate content and to distribute that in channels. And I'm just going to, in this piece of, because I don't want to spend too long on this presentation, I'm just going to jump into content and give an example of how generative AI can actually help build content. So in this case, we're going to talk about an article. So we worked with Claude and with ChatGPT to actually generate this, which is a rough draft of an article. We asked them to look at, and I don't know Terran 4D particularly well. I know them somewhat, but I went through a process with Claude and ChatGPT, thinking through some themes that we could talk about for this particular company. We looked at the website together and we came up with this as an initial sort of rough draft of an article. And again, this was done super quickly, but these guys are into sort of landslides, and they're a geospatial company. They're using remote sensing data, real-time data, and AI to actually predict some of those areas of risk for landslides. That's not the only thing they do, but it's an important thing that they do. So this article kind of discusses that, discusses their strengths, etc., etc. So it's the bare bones of an article that a human in the loop would go through. I would go through this and make sure that the wording's right, make sure that it's human-like, it isn't machine-like in the way it's expressing things, and make sure that there's nothing missing. So it's a back and forth process between generative AI, ideation, initial draft creation, human making sure everything works well. The next piece of this would be SEO, and again, we use generative AI to add the SEO words that are in there. And by the way, those words, those keywords and long tail phrases are all in that document. So we've actually already done that work to know what those words are, and we can embed them into this article. So great, we've got an article, it's talking about, it's focused really on the value proposition of the company and some of the things that the company does, and it's SEO enabled. Wonderful, we've got that. That's going to be published to our website. Hopefully we've got a blog there that sits underneath it, WordPress being the most popular. So we're going to publish it there, and we'll probably publish it into other places like LinkedIn, and we'll probably put something into Medium. So it'll go in 3 places ultimately, but it'll initially go on our website. But what else we need for this? We need a really captivating image. So article images are really I can't overstate how important article images are. I think the title, I didn't mention the title before, but we also asked ChatGPT and Claude to give us a very compelling title for that article. And if you go back and look at this again, you'll see that it's quite an eye-catching, compelling title to get people to read it. But we want the same for an image. So, since we're talking about landslides, I came up with that image. So that's a really interesting, obviously a landslide, it's impacted people and places, but I didn't want to use, I don't know if there's a copyright thing with that image, and I didn't really want to use that particular image. So I generated an image from that image using generative AI. And that's the image it came up with. I actually, and there's a clever trick to this, but you can actually describe the existing image and give that to one of these generative AI engines, and it comes up with that. Now that's a pretty compelling image, I have to say, and it was generated in seconds. So we've got an article, we've got an image for the article, and we've got a very compelling title for the image. We've SEO enabled it, and it's now going to be published in various places. So that's really cool, and that was done incredibly quickly. Can you imagine if you'd employ a copywriter to write that, a graphic artist to create that, and an SEO expert to create all of those things? Not the sort of things that people inside of small and medium companies have got the time for, or the expertise for, or the money for to bring somebody else in to do. So you can now do this much more simply, or much simpler. Okay, so this is one more, and I wanted just to focus a little tiny bit on LinkedIn. I think if you're a B2B company, there's the written content, there's using that written content to generate other types of media and distribute that in other places. So that article, again, I've mentioned, has gone on multiple different places. This is a LinkedIn post as well. So movement and video is a big deal when it comes to social media, as we all know. That image is something that, or that video on the left was something that was created from a still image. So I took a still image and I used one of the generative AI tools and I animated it. It's a very, very simple animation. It's a 4-second animation. But when you put that into social media, into LinkedIn, for example, with some compelling text, you'll get a lot more impressions than if it's a still image and it's not very compelling. So the video is important. I asked, and again, I worked back and forth with generative AI. I asked them, this is really in support of the article we've just written, so I wanted to, as I talk about this, I wanted to make sure we continue through the journey. So I asked the generative AI, here's our article, here's the image that supports the article. I want you to write a very compelling message for me that gets people's attention in LinkedIn to get them to read the article. So that's what this is. And again, that text was written by generative AI. I came in and edited it. And the title is another compelling title, Predicting Peril, How Geospatial Innovation Saves Lives. Really attention grabbing. Again, that was a journey between myself and generative AI to generate all of that stuff. So you'll see that how much simpler it now is to do compelling things within the world of marketing. So let's just step to the last, and again, from a content perspective, I've just really given you some examples here of a couple of pieces of content that are compelling, that are connected to one another, that are distributed in different places. So we could talk about a lot of other things here, but I just wanted to keep it short and sweet and really get the point across. So we're on to the final slide. Let's just summarize what we've just been talking about here. And I wanted to just provide you 4 key bullet points, which are really the GenAI benefits to small and medium-sized companies. So number 1 is professional marketing simplified. I mentioned the fact that the playing field is now level. You haven't got to spend the money and the time and have the resources to achieve the same results as you would have done years ago. So the big guys that have got all those resources, you can now compete with them. You can provide very professional marketing in a much simpler way. So that's number 1. Number 2, reduce time, reduce cost, increase effectiveness. So yeah, I've walked you through some examples here. You saw the speed of generation here of these various components, the foundational pieces, the strategy, the content generation, video, imagery, articles, etc., SEO. We can do it quickly. So it saves time. In terms of cost, we don't need to pull in those external resources, or internally actually, what this can do is make the work of the folks you've already got more efficient, more effective, and essentially add additional bodies to your staff without ever having those bodies there. Generative AI does the work. In terms of effectiveness, highly effective, particularly given how professional your output will be, and you'll get better at this as you practice and learn these tools. I'm a big one for frameworks and strategy. I think that if you don't have a complete strategy that's every element filled out, then you're missing pieces and therefore your effectiveness is reduced. So having a good solid foundation that everything's built off of, who you're talking to, what you're talking to them about, the channels, your value proposition, understanding your competition, all those things in one place, that then guides your execution. Without that, you're going to be far less effective. And I've shown you how we can very quickly build out that personalized strategy for your organization and then fill in some of those gaps and really make that a complete document very quickly. And then the last one, which a lot of people really are focused on, is the automation piece. And absolutely, I've shown you here how you can automate the content production, very professional output. You can do the same with analytics. You can also work within social media. You can look at your effects, what you're doing, the performance of different things. There's a lot more that you can do inside of the world of generative AI. I've just touched on some of the core pieces here, and there's a lot further we could go. So what's the end result? The end result is that your CEO, your marketing, head of marketing, or your team that are your sales team are going to have that impact on you. A very happy group. So I'll leave it at that. I would welcome any feedback you've got, any thoughts, any additional things I may have missed, any questions you might have. You can reach me at matt@spatialadvisors.com, and I will continue doing this work and showing you some of these quite astounding things that you can do with generative AI. So again, thanks for watching.